As a React engineer now working with React for the past couple of years now, I would say 7 years. What I like about React, and I think why it's the best used in the industry right now, is because of its flexibility, because of how its whole ecosystem is really strong and has a pretty good toolkit under its belt, whether it's for testing, using Jest, for unit testing, end-to-end testing, like with Cypress, TypeScript in general. Like TypeScript is now comes pretty much with React as a standard, but also in other tools like for state management, like Redux or Zustand, context. So the good thing about all this ecosystem with React is that you can transfer this over to React Native. So that is the beauty about React Native and React Web, is they're both very nicely connected together. So it pretty much is what it says. It's learn once, excuse me, and write anywhere. So the difference with React Native is just that you have the components that it uses. So React Native, its equivalency on how React works with the DOM and like just JSX and everything, if you're familiar with React. React Native uses like the basic components such as a view, text, image, text input. Scroll view is like the standard if you want a user's scroll, like kind of like a container, and style sheet for like writing styles. So if you use like other frameworks like UI libraries like Material or what else, Tailwind or Chakra, you can kind of get an idea of how this works. So using like a text component or an image component, like working with React with Next. Next has like an image component, and then there's a button component, and then there's other like more React native functionality components like a flat list and section list. These are more like React Native, and then there's other like Android components for the API equivalent to Android or iOS. But these are the components that you use to create the React Native functionality that is the equivalent of React Web. So it is very, very nice, and React Native also has what's called Expo. So if you've worked with Next, if you want to deploy a Next application, Next works with Vercel. So basically you deploy your Next application to Vercel. And Expo is pretty much kind of the same thing. Expo, in addition, with all the nice features that it has, with the components that it uses, it also has like file-based routing, kind of similar to Next, how it uses like page routing. So very, very similar. Expo router, very similar to the routing that Next uses. So I think that was kind of the idea of what was behind Expo. So it's another tool in addition to working with React Native, so you can deploy your application on there, have like a development environments, continuous integration, things like that. So what I wanted to show is the actual application that I created. It is a kind of a simple application here of a React football scoreboard library. This was created with Next and Vercel. So and it's a pretty much small component that was created with the actual React component, and the test as well, created with Jest and React testing library. So if we look at let's look at the web component. It is using TypeScript, standard React. It is using the useState hook for rendering like the initial scores as a state using the useState hook, and just the similar logic here, using again useState with TypeScript, useState again here for showing the summary, and other functionality to handle the finish game, handle the update score. So I'm not going to go into the tutorial of how this was created, but the idea of this application is how you can see how easily this transcends over to React Native, which is very, very, very nice and very easy. So if you're a React engineer, React Native for mobile development. So Going back here, this was like a functionality to handle the update score, and let's again more functionality here. And here is what would be rendered with the HTML elements in JSX with a React equivalent. So like a div, and then like standard HTML JSX that we're using here, and how it's using like the style module here, which is how you can style your next applications, doing it this way with styled modules. And the application, here it is. So I was actually playing around with this here. So let's go ahead and try it out. So here's the application. It's like a scoreboard. Start that game, update the score, update, and update here, and then show summary. And here it is, right? So here's the beauty of how this was created. Now this exact component, if we go back to this component, this exact component was created as an equivalent in React Native. So here it is. Here's the same exact component, the same logic, same functionality. Nothing has changed here except the React native components. So like I mentioned previously in the beginning, we had like a scroll view. That's kind of like a container for the user to scroll. Text component, view, what else? And then just a typical like React logic of like mapping over things, and then like a pressable. It's typical like React, like a React native component. And this is like map. It's very standard React, and that is the way it works on the view side. So it's actually a screen in React Web, or Next it would be a page. And here is the styling of how React Native works. So the styling, you can throw that here, but what I like to do is I like to keep a nice clean modular clean code type of structure. So I pass it over here into these scoreboard styles, just as a cleaner approach. I believe in just having nice, clean, readable code. So that's pretty much what I did here. And this is like the equivalent of the styled modules that I did on the website, the web version. And additionally as well, so before let's go ahead and see how this is running. So I have it running here actually with which is Expo Go. Expo Go is really nice because you can download this application to your phone, and then you can see it. You can actually test it on your phone. So what I'm doing now is I'm running it with Android Emulator, which is right here, and using this emulator. In this case, it's a Pixel 7. And running the application. So the application, here it is. As you can see, it's the same exact thing, same exact application, but now it's the React Native version. So let's go ahead and start that game, update the score, update the score. The same thing will happen, obviously, because it's the same exact logic. And then finish that. See that? Okay. And now let's go on to the web version, which is, there it is. So as you can see, the same exact logic, but for React Native. In this case, I'm using the Android emulator, but Expo actually works like as a wrapper. If you want to like show this on iOS, you can also work with Expo that way. And here with the also with the tests that I created here with Jest and React testing library. So I was testing this here. Let's go ahead and run this test again. And we are running those tests. And here we go. So it's basically the Jest unit test that we're working with. This file here is for Scoreboard spec. So it's separated nicely here on this component for the styles and the spec. And basically what happens here, it's just using like a rendered without crashing, starting the game, scoreboard renders correctly, update the score, show summary of scores, things like that. And that is set up here with Jest and React testing library. And this 128 lines of this Jest unit test code is the same on the web version. So if we go to actually the web version, it is the same exact 128 lines of code. So that is the beauty. The beauty is that you can transcend over that from web to React Native very, very easily. Yeah, and if you want to go another route, you can use like React Native components for web. So basically this is using React Native, the React Native components, but for web, as clearly as the site shows. So pretty much it's pretty powerful how the React Native, the React ecosystem, you can use pretty much everything there, whether it's state management, forms, Formik, Redux, context, testing, end-to-end testing, unit testing for React Native. So it's really nice how you can easily transfer that over and basically have this. Oh, excuse me. Let me just so you can see the. Sorry about that. See the application better there. Okay, there we go. And let's show that application now here. So yeah, that was the application. Let me just get myself out of the way here. Okay, so there, yeah, that's the application, and pretty much how React Native is very, very nicely how it transfers over to web. Web transfers over to React Native nicely. So hopefully you like this you enjoyed this tutorial as a just more as an informative tutorial of how easy it is to, if you come from the React engineering world, and how easy you want to start into getting into mobile development. React Native is definitely the way to go, because the transition and the switch is very, very easy. As you can see here, you can use the same logic. And if you don't want to use JSX, you can use the React Native web components as this shows here. So it's pretty nice. So thank you very much. Hopefully you found that interesting, and if you did, give me a hint. Thank you. Have a good day.